All right, so maybe we could just do a quick round the horn on the GPT-5 sort of impressions, and so how about I'll go? How about me, Jim, Mike, and then Stu? Mine are, I'll be honest, I've on the one hand, I find it, it's very fast, much faster, I think, in many cases than some of the other models. I was using O3 a lot personally rather than 4.0. I have found it gets really bogged down for me in a couple of cases, either where like it's a very long conversation maybe, or I've also noticed a correlation if I use agent, everything else seems to slow down. And I don't know if I'm just because I'm burning too many GPUs, Mike, like you were just saying, probably maybe commanding, 100,000x, value. But I did notice a lot of people really missed 4.0 and sort of the friendlier emoji, laden, sort of thing, which I was very happy not to have that because I usually tell it not to do those things. So, Jim, how about you?
So on a personal level, I'm a fan of the models, the sort of upfront model selection that's going on. That said, you still got to sort of think about your prompt a lot because that's ultimately going to guide it where it's going to go. I'm excited to see that it's going to improve over time because they are capturing that sort of, and especially when the user community out there sort of says, no, that's not really what I wanted, go in another direction. So this is only going to get better with the usage. So big fan of that. A little disturbed by the fact that there wasn't upfront recognition that by sort of taking many of the models off the table, if you will, and going to 5, it was going to break workflows out there. And it broke people's personal agentic workflows that they had going, and it's breaking some company agentic workflows. And that shouldn't have been a surprise either to to OpenAI or to the user community. And that's the kind of thing that unsettles the enterprise in terms of leaning into agents. So that was a little bit of that was a quirky one for me. And bluntly, I'm in this business and I didn't necessarily see that coming and think about it.
Let me throw one thing on top of that, which is there's this guy, I think Stu watches him as well, Nate Jones, I think is his name.
Nate,
does a bunch of videos, very, very, some great stuff if you haven't checked it out. And he was saying his observation, because I guess the system prompt was leaked, and he was sort of observing that it led him to believe that OpenAI was really heading down sort of an enterprise path. So to your point, Jim, if that's true, that what you just said becomes even more important for those guys.
Right. This is gonna the release timeline and the sort of preparation. The more agents that are out there, and sort of how much the dependency and how much they're hooked in to a particular model. It's if we think about the enterprise market, it's going to have this is going to have to get more mature how this gets rolled out and deployed, and there's going to have to be sort of adherence to sort of backwards functionality and not allowing for not breaking those the more agents we have deployed.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, from my perspective, it was a very exciting event, because the last time this happened, we went from 3 to 4. It was literally the difference between a toy and a car that you could drive around and do stuff with. Right? A toy and a tool maybe is a better answer. Yeah. So I was really excited, like what Uncle Sam was going to bring for Christmas. Yeah. Sam Altman, the
Death Star.
Exactly. The reality of it. Look, I will say the model is is at a higher level of intelligence. Like it is just flat smarter, and that comes through for me when I'm literally writing prompts and interacting with it. It comes through as what I would call awareness, and I know that's a weird word to use for a model. I don't mean it's self-aware. I mean it's just more contextually aware. If we're having a conversation and it's talking to me about what's happening, it's just more aware of common sense things, of real world things, of it's a little bit less short-term memory gaps and a little bit more just in the room with me. The reality, though, as Jim's pointed out, is that it is disruptive, or has been disruptive. And fortunately, that's something that that we would have caught. People using our tools would have caught because we have that built-in ability to regress before you deploy. So it is unfortunate that others didn't have that, and that those problems have come about, because now we'll have to climb our way out of that hole from a
Right.
PR perspective.
That's
but,
right.
But I'll say, last thing I'll say is it is smarter, but it wasn't the sort of toy to tool step.
Right. I had higher expectations.
Yeah, it didn't go from tool to power tool the way that I'd hoped.
It might have been the Death Star rising over the horizon that gave you higher expectations.
Maybe,
I mean, that was sort of
yeah.
the hype that Uncle Sam put out there.
Exactly.
Stu, bring us home, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you really have to separate. I think with GPT-5, you really got to separate the experience you get inside of ChatGPT, just interfacing with the chat, versus the experience you get using it in through the API or with some of these coding tools we were talking about earlier. So, one of the, I think, if I'm trying to just retcon what was OpenAI trying to achieve with some of the stuff that they were doing with GPT-5, I think part of what they were trying to do, especially with ChatGPT, was make this a much more scalable thing for them, right? And try to simplify the user experience. So it went to automatic model switching, which means, when you type something into ChatGPT, you used to be able to choose exactly how, which model to do. Now it's kind of switching in the background. They're starting to add back some of that capability if you want it for power users. But in the normal experience, it's kind of picking what you do. And it might pick, it might pick a model that's kind of your, slightly dumb cousin, or it might pick one that's your, incredible Einstein level friend. But it's so
Should
there's
we
a little
start
bit of
feeling
inconsistency
insulted
there. Yeah, but I think
if
what
I
they're
get the
trying
dumb
to
cousin
do.
a lot? What does that say?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, but I see what they're trying to do. I think the most expensive, the hardest part for this stuff now at scale is it takes a lot of GPUs to make these things run. So I think that, to a certain way, versus trying to optimize for the experience we all get through ChatGPT, I think, versus them trying to optimize to give you the smartest, highest intelligent level experience possible, I think they were trying to optimize to giving you the smartest, and they might even fell down in some places in this, but trying to give you the smartest response possible per unit of GPU, right? But to control those GPUs down and try to get smart. So I think some of that gets reflected in that ChatGPT experience. I think as using it to do programming tasks in a setting where you have more controllability around the level of thinking and smartness that it's going to do, I found it different but good once you get used to it. So like and someone online said this, and it resonated with the experience I had. If you're using the Claude models for programming, which are also quite outstanding, it's like this really eager, ready to go. You ask it to do something, and I'm going to go put 3,000 code, 3,000 lines of code to write this thing out, and I'm going to get it as fast as I can, and I'm going to do this, and and whereas I think ChatGPT 5 is a little more, I find it, it's more like the grizzled senior developer. You know what I mean? It wants to, it's going to develop a really smart approach for what you ask it to do. Now, if you ask it to do, if you're not clear enough on what you ask it to do, you might run into problems, but it's usually going to deploy a really smart way. It's going to be pretty tight in how it's approaching it. And it won't, and it isn't going to tell you as much about everything that it did and everything. It's just going to kind of get the job done. And, so that's why I've actually switched a little between those two models, but I actually find it has solved some really good problems that Claude struggled with. And I think on the front end side, if you're designing like UI interfaces, it has pretty good taste, if that makes sense, right? Like it designs pretty good interfaces.
That I was talking about.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna leave it there.